10 signs your parent is a narcissist. Narcissists pop up in lots of different places. Most commonly in romantic entanglements, social situations, at work, with a neighbour, a client that you might be dealing with, even a stranger in the street, but also in the family dynamic. And there are two arenas whereby the presence of a narcissist causes the most damage. That's in a romantic entanglement and a familial one. Those who have a parent or parents that are narcissists had no choice in the matter. They were brought into a home where a narcissist existed, and they've been subjected to that throughout their childhood and into adulthood also. The suspicion or realization that your parent may be a narcissist invariably occurs when you're an adult yourself. It's pretty uncommon for a child to suddenly think, do you know what, I think my parent's a narcissist. Instead, the realization comes years later. Sometimes it's prompted by the fact that the individual has had a romantic entanglement with a narcissist and then learns about what narcissism is and then comes to the realization, actually, I think this applies to my parent. I know myself that numerous people that I have consulted with initially about a romantic entanglement then found themselves realizing it was when I looked at your work, HG, with regard to the person I was in a relationship with, it suddenly made me realize I think my mother's a narcissist or my father's a narcissist. I remember in the very early days of consultation, I helped a school psychologist in the United States understand about the dynamic between a narcissist and an intimate partner secondary source, something which other commentators don't provide, and thus it gave her the enlightenment and insight she needed. It also then caused her to suspect, and she was correct, that her mother was a narcissist. Sometimes this awareness comes from an analysis of your own behaviours, which have arisen from the abuse that you've endured, that you see the way that you react in certain circumstances, and perhaps you've sought therapy, you've sought some insight, which has then caused you to understand that the reason why you behave in the way you do is because you've been brought up or exposed to a parental narcissist. You see behaviours which are current, and you see past behaviours, especially when you were a child, and this then causes you to ask the question, might my parent be a narcissist? To help you address whether this is correct and to direct you towards the appropriate method of finding out, I'm going to list for you 10 of the main reasons that enable you to spot whether your parent is a narcissist, with various examples in each category. The first, you have to parent the parent. You're expected to be the caregiver. This demonstrates a sense of entitlement and a lack of accountability for the fact that when you're a parent, as I have observed in other instances, your role is in effect to suck up the world. You're there to shield the child from the vagaries of life, to guide them, to provide them with emotional support. Not just, of course, to provide shelter and warmth and food and drink, but to guide them through life. And that when the parent faces difficulties, invariably they do, because that's the way of the world, they don't dump them on the child, but rather suck up the problem themselves and deal with it, no matter how problematic they are finding it. The child is not equipped to deal with adult problems, and thus a healthy and well-adjusted adult, no matter how hard they may find it, realizes they have to suck it up on behalf of their family. They do not dump it. Whereas, of course, with a narcissist, you, as the child, may well become the emotional rock for the narcissist, that they complain about the behaviours of the others, commonly the non-narcissist spouse, or other members of the family, And you're there to be a shoulder for that narcissist to cry upon. You're expected perhaps to deal with domestic duties that they have dropped, that you find that you end up looking after them, that as a young child you're making them meals, giving them medication, perhaps even attending to their hygiene needs. Sometimes it is the manifestation of physical care. In other instances, that you're expected to financially support the parent. In some instances, it is the emotional bleed from this narcissist, whereby, failing to recognize boundaries, they talk about adult problems to you as a child, things that you ought not to be burdened with, but nevertheless they do so because it's part of their way of controlling you by perhaps culturing codependency in you, that you feel that there is a role created for you in looking after this parent. It gives you meaning, that you feel useful as a consequence of being the individual that listens to all their troubles and woes. And in so doing, you provide this support and you end up having to parent the parent. Number 2, boundaries are repeatedly breached. The parental narcissist selects your friends for you, tells you who you should be spending time with, telling you who you can't spend time with. They limit the time that you engage with your friends or the circumstances in which it takes place. Your romantic relationships are interfered with. Potential suitors are described as being unsuitable for you, or they try and hook you up with people that clearly aren't right for you, but seem right from the perspective of the narcissist parent. You're advised how to run your home, how to organize your family, how to do your job. And if you try and fight back against this interference, you may well be met with the ignition of fury. You don't know any better, you're just a child, or you're only 20 years old, you know fuck all about life, I've lived life, I know a thing or two. Or you're met with a but-hurt reaction of, I was only trying to help, I only wanted you to avoid the mistakes that I've made. But that's all done as a pity play, and passive-aggressive behaviours linked to that need to interfere and tell you how to run your life. The narcissist may be self-inviting, repeatedly turning up without invitation, telephoning you on an intrusive basis, staying over for longer than they've been invited to do so, perhaps turning up and staying on the line when you've told them that you're busy and you can't talk, having no due regard for the demands on your time because they must make the demands on your time to control you and draw fuel from you. Number 3, you are used to validate them. They seek your agreement. Even when you don't actually agree with their behaviours, they must have your approval to it. They may gossip about other people, criticising them, expecting you to agree with their position. They will often say, I'm a good mother, don't you think? Or, I did my best for you. You've turned out all right, haven't you? Repeatedly seeking validation for their behaviours by receiving approval from you. A parent ought to just get on with it. They're there to be a parent, not to seek the praise or approval or validation of that child. It can also be done through flaunting the achievements of a child by bragging about them, that the parent receives validation for their brilliance and the fantastic way they've brought this child up by the fact that their sporting achievements have been recognised so much, that they have to tell the world, often on social media, about what the child has done. And in so doing, the responses that they receive by way of fuel provide them with that validation that they are a good and brilliant and talented parent. Again, a healthy parent doesn't seek such validation. They know it themselves, but a narcissist needs it. Number 4, the use of favourites. You might be the favourite and be the golden child, or it could be that a sibling, a cousin, even the intimate partner primary source is used as a favourite and you're triangulated with them. You'll note this as a consequence of there being different expectations between you and your peers concerning school achievements, sporting achievements, where you get to in terms of career, what you earn, positions that you hold. Favoritism may be demonstrated by way of punishment. For instance, you're punished but your sibling never was, or there's leniency shown with regard to the type of punishment that is meted out with regard to them. You find yourself being repeatedly triangulated by way of comparison. Look at your cousin, see how well she's done. Why can't you be more like your brother? Words to that effect, whereby the favoritism that's exhibited towards another family member, possibly a friend, a child of another person that they know, is used repeatedly against you. Number 5, their needs come before you experience neglect. You are to help them before they will help you. Their leisure time is more important than being a parent to you. Their drinking or their taking of drugs comes ahead of attending to your needs. Indeed, your needs may not even be attended to at all. They're too busy watching television to listen to what you've got to say. They're engrossed in what's happening on their phone to bother to cook dinner for you. It might be that they create a fake crisis, see the video, The Fake Crisis Narcissist, in order to cause you to attend to what they require, disrupting your day-to-day life. They may find that they repeatedly request help from you when they could manage perfectly well themselves, or that they demand that help with certain problems, which results in you having your life interrupted, that you're not able to care for your family as well as you ought to do, that your work's interrupted, that you find yourself having to repeatedly listen to complaining telephone calls, or that you have to go over and sort out the problem. It might be that the parent is obsessed with their career, therefore putting that need of their career ahead of you. Many instances whereby the narcissist ensures that their needs come ahead of yours. Number 6, blame shifting. If I hadn't have had you, I would have been a multimillionaire by now. Look what you made me do. You make me this way. You make me hit you. You've ruined my life. Everything was wonderful until you came along. If you'd do X, I wouldn't be like this, you know. You've stopped me doing Y. These are just some of the phrases where the narcissist blame shifts to the child, be they a minor child or an adult child, whereby the narcissist's necessity of never being at fault and it being somebody else's fault is in full effect. This blame shifting is part of the lack of accountability, part of the defense mechanism of the narcissism to ensure that the narcissist is never held to account and thus nullifies threats to control. Number 7, your independence is a threat to the narcissist. Whilst, of course, a healthy parent will be sad when their child eventually flies the nest, they recognise that it's all part of the healthy evolution of the relationship. The fact that once you go to school, your parent is no longer your world, and there may well be a little sadness from that particular parent, but they recognise that it's healthy for you to have your friends, for you to make your way in the world through work, that you might want to live away from home, that you have romantic relationships, that you're able to stand on your own 2 feet with regard to decisions and finances. The narcissist regards all of that as a threat. You are an object to the narcissist. As the child of a parental narcissist, you are a non-intimate secondary source, and therefore you must be controlled. If you hang out with your friends, you're not hanging out with the narcissist, and therefore the friends threaten the need for control over you. You having a boyfriend or girlfriend is an act of independence which threatens the narcissist's need for control over you, and you may well find that you're not allowed to have a romantic relationship, or the narcissist repeatedly criticises the people that you have relationships with in order to try and end them. You may find yourself being guilt-tripped where you decide to move out of the home, particularly if you're moving further away, because that impacts upon the narcissist's ability to control you. You may find that your decisions to take work also affect the need for control, that the narcissist doesn't feel that they have any role in your life any longer, and you're subjected to triangulation with this decision, that you're guilt-tripped. The fact that you make your own financial decisions, again, threatens the control of the narcissist over you. Anything whereby as you become more independent, throwing off the shackles of control of that narcissist, will threaten that narcissist's need for control, resulting in the necessity of trying to nullify that threat to control in some way. Number 8, the narcissist lives through you. You are simply an extension of the narcissist parent, a little mirror that is there to do the narcissist's bidding, to always be under control, to provide fuel, your character traits taken by the narcissist. Your individuality is diminished. The narcissist may dictate your career choices, your selection of extracurricular activities. The narcissist parent will steal credit for your achievements. You won because of me. I know what's best for you, and becoming a lawyer is what you must do. You got your baseball skills from me. All your achievements are acquired by the narcissist. What you do in life is only because of the narcissist's guidance and input, and the narcissist will not cease in letting you know. The narcissist acquires your character traits, which are bolted onto their construct to make them look better. The commandeering of your achievements also is a means of asserting control over you, to let you remember that you're only there but for the grace of the narcissist. Number 9, you will be marginalised. In order for the narcissist to remain superior and thus have control, the narcissist can either bolster themselves or cut down other people. And therefore, as a child of a narcissist, you will repeatedly find that you're cut down. This is seen through nitpicking, criticism, the rejection of your own successes, the diminution of your accomplishments, that you're triangulated and compared with others, whereby their comparisons are such that you are deemed to be less successful than them, that where you legitimately seek praise for what you've done, it's not given, or it's provided begrudgingly. Often, for instance, well, you scored 2 goals, but why didn't you score 3? You got 70% in that examination, why didn't you get 80%? You're never given the approval or appropriate validation that should come from a genuine parent with emotional empathy. No matter how hard you strive, no matter what you achieve, you end up being marginalised. A 10th major indicator of a narcissist parent is shaming your reactions. Your emotional responses to circumstances are just dismissed. This is because the narcissist has no emotional empathy for you. Stop crying, or I'll give you something to cry about. Deal with it. You're overreacting. We just had to get on with it in my day, you know. What your response is to a particular circumstance, the narcissist just puts to one side because they're not interested. Their absence of emotional empathy is clear and apparent. They're not interested in helping you. They're not interested in supporting you. Your reaction is a nuisance because you're making a demand upon the narcissist and you're not there to do that. They are there to make demands upon you. These are 10 major indicators. If you just spot one, that doesn't mean that you're necessarily dealing with a narcissist. But if many of these things that I've identified have resonated with you, you may well be dealing with a narcissist. If you find your mind is going in the direction of believing that your parent is a narcissist, then what next? What should you do about it? Well, the good news is you can watch my video, I think my parent is a narcissist, what should I do? Which provides you with lots of information to deal with such a situation. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.